Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Webpreneur Show. I'm Devin Slavin. I'll be your host. And as you know, the Conscious Webpreneur Show is all about having meaningful, inspiring, and interactive conversations with conscious entrepreneurs and leaders who are making a difference in the world, both online and off. And today I have some special guests who are also good friends of mine, Gaby and Raj, Sundra, or actually I should ask, how do I pronounce your last name?
That's right. You got it
Sundra.
perfect.
Great. Cool. Well, I'm so excited to have Gaby and Raj here today. They have been together for over a decade, and congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
Businesses together and are still enjoying a playful, peaceful, and passionate relationship. Today, we'll be talking with them about one of their businesses, Relationship Fun and Games, where they help couples keep the fights clean and the sex dirty instead of being nasty for their sex life.
That's right.
As you can tell, this is already going to be a really juicy episode. So at this point, I just want to welcome you, Gaby and Raj, to the show and to say hi. And, thanks so much for joining us. How's it going?
Great to be here, Devin. Thank you so much for having us. What a privilege to be here today.
Just a delight. It's always wonderful working with you and getting to see you.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thanks for making the time to join the show. And I just wanted to start off by, inviting you to share more about Relationship Fun and Games, how you got into it, where did it sprout up from, and kind of the story behind it and what you do there.
Well, Gaby's such a great storyteller.
You want me to tell the backstory here?
Sure.
Well, first, just a little story about us and our story together before, because we didn't start out as relationship experts. In fact, it was kind of a disaster when our relationship started, but the intuition was so strong. We knew there was something there. And actually, we're about 6 days shy of the 10th anniversary of our first date, and it was the only blind date I've ever been on. It went well, though. And I actually had to fly to get there. So this was really a big stretch. And when we met, because it was long distance, even though it was a great weekend and I just felt wonderful about it, it was long distance. And so I thought, well, that was a great weekend. And the very next weekend, he called and said, so can I see you again? And I said, well, sure. And he had plans the following weekend. And so I was getting out my calendar and I'm like, well, 6 weeks from now. And
I was hoping she was going to say, sure, come down this weekend.
And so he said, well, what about, he said, well, I meant sooner. What about this weekend?
She forced my hand.
Yeah, he had to say what he wanted. And I actually had a date with someone else, a second date. And I was like, well, I'd rather go on a second date with Raj rather than a second date with this other guy. And mind you, those are the only 2 dates I'd been on in 2 years. So it's not like I was doing a lot of dating.
Mm-hmm.
But at any rate, when we met, it was the intuition. It was like we'd been together for 40 years. It just felt so comfortable. And I used to think that, that butterflies in your stomach, I don't know if you've ever gotten that, but with past relationships, I'd literally gotten nauseous before and almost thrown up. And with Raj, none of that was there. And I realized I had it totally flipped. And that butterflies is actually anxiety because you feel like you can't be yourself.
Wow.
And so with Raj, I felt like not only could I be myself, that he actually saw my most authentic self and literally could draw more of the real me out of me than I could even on my own. And that's a total switch. Mostly you feel in a relationship, oh, they don't get me. And he really got me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Getting the other person isn't necessarily easy, though, because you're really calling them forth to be their greatest self. And, Gaby said it felt natural at the beginning, but that's not to say that it was easy.
No, because then the next 6 to 12 months were so messy. We at 12 weeks, we started talking about getting married. I think it was at 6 months or something that we had, maybe a year, we had the engagement ring. But then the engagement ring came off. There was a breakup over that. And then the engagement ring went back on. And then at the engagement party, our good friend pulled us aside and he said, we thought he was going to give us a gift. Here it is, our engagement party. And he says, I don't think you guys should get married. It looks pretty messy from here.
Right? Exactly.
And it was messy. So it was embarrassing. It was messy. But Raj and I sat down and said, Well, the intuition is strong. You know, our body, our intuition is saying, and I don't mean the chemistry, the sex, that was great too, but just your gut feeling that this just feels right and is worth, we like to say wonderful is worth it. You know, it might take something, but we don't want it to be work. And that's how we got into this work. It was about 5 years after we had been together, and we'd been married for 3, and things were getting better and better and better, and people were noticing. And they kept saying to Raj, I don't know what you're doing, but keep on doing it. And we just kept evolving as human beings because we really framed our relationship as the container for our growth and development as individuals. And so then a year or so after that, our friends Brian Franklin and Jennifer Russell, they lead a lot of seminars. They got married, and they invited 5 couples at their wedding to represent the 5 core values of their marriage. And Raj and I were invited to speak for devotion, to represent devotion. And the next day or 2 days after, they had a seminar on relationships, and they invited all those 5 couples to speak. Well, the couple before us, very intense. You know, the couple after us, they had a fight, and the guy was not even there. Our portion, the only complaint we heard is people were laughing so hard that they missed certain parts because everyone was having such a good time. And it shows you just the difference of what we do. And we just did that naturally. We wrote our notes in like 10 minutes on our way over there. And at the time, we'd spent like 12 hours writing a webinar for our client.
For a business.
So it's like, oh, this actually is pretty nice. But we were so humbled because we know relationships, you know, it's challenging, right? And so it took a couple of years of our friends. In fact, at that event, the very guy who at our engagement party said, don't get married, have to do this. People need this.
Texting us, calling us, making sure.
Cool.
Weeks after, are you guys going to do this? Are you guys going to do this? So it took a few years and some encouragement because we were so humble. But then we realized, I think it might have been a stranger stopped us on the street and wrote a song on the spot about our relationship and what he saw. And we were like, you know what? Okay, maybe we do have something here to share.
Talk about a sign.
We created all these ways of working through the issues that we were facing in our relationship, and we just started figuring out how to communicate those to other people.
You know, we made it just fun. You know, we'd be fighting in the car, and we came up with the hot and bothered backseat driver. Or we'd been in the middle of an argument, and we'd remember, like, whoa, this isn't who we're committed to, but, you know, you're too upset to say something. And we created the stop, shift, start. So all these tools we were using in our own relationship, we then, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we started sharing with other couples, and we've created a weekly show called How to Keep the Fights Clean and the Sex Dirty. And we're doing a webinar right now on the #1 reason relationships fail and what you can do about it. But really, we're doing this because we love love, and there's so many good relationships out there that put up with it either being good or slowly slipping into that default until pretty soon, you know, the relationship, even if they don't break up, they're still kind of doomed to just surviving. And how couples, you know, they can tend to measure their relationship based on how long they've been together. And we said we don't want that. We want to measure it on how happy you are. And so we call it a P3 relationship, a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship. Because you want to have your friend and your buddy and have a great time, and you want to not fight, and you want to have actually peace and trust and harmony. And you don't want to be roommates. You want to keep it sexy and hot and exciting. So we figured if we can focus on those 3 and help couples on focusing on those 3, then you're on the path to your relationship getting what we call even better if, EBIs. We like to apply business terms to relationship and relationship to business.
Totally.
Even better ifs.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That was a bit of the backstory.
And that brings us to the perfect point. I mean, that is what we're talking about today, is all about where does this interface happen? You know, business essentially, you know, Conscious Webpreneur is about more of the business aspects and how business changed the world. And here you are changing the world through relationships, and that is your business. So that is awesome. I love your story, personal story. And I have to say, this is really interesting. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm going to just tell you as a reminder that, Gaby, when we first met, you had your relationship vows on a piece of paper. And we met around, by the way, like, you know, around the Grow Food Party Crew and creating gardens and abundance in neighborhoods around the world. That's a little backstory for another time. But I remember seeing these vows, and I asked you if I could keep a copy of these because they were so profound. And I just thought, this is a relationship that is that you could build the world upon. That could I don't know the words to describe it, but this was going to be a powerful relationship. So I don't know if Rod, you knew that. Gaby, you remember it, but.
Oh, yeah. This is present in our daily lives. You want to
this morning, every morning, actually, most every morning, we read our vow of the month. The way that the vows came about is, I think most people that are getting married have that whole, okay, we got to work on our vows. There's a lot of pressure there. Like, what's the right vow and how many? And Gaby and I were working on them independently, and then we were going to meet and share. And somehow, magically, we ended up with 12. And then it just came to us, let's have one for each month. And then let's really practice that one each month and just keep our vows alive.
And say it every morning.
Yeah.
Because you go from the kitchen to the bedroom and you're like, what did I go into the bedroom for? So for something as confronting as a wedding vow, say, like our most difficult one is August. I promise to breathe deep, get off it first, get on it as if you're upset and whatever, but get off it first, like drop the upset.
Which is hard.
and give, especially when it's difficult. And what's key in that vow is it has nothing to do with who's right or who's wrong. Nothing. You are promising to be the person to step towards love first. And so these vows are just really great reminders. This month is, I promise to care about your experience and happiness, even if it conflicts with my own.
And it's great because throughout the day or week, you find examples of where you're not doing that, and then you're called forth because you've created this vision for your relationship.
Which really speaks to, there's two core ways that our relationship work is different. One is it's playful. Like we think that transformation in general is too significant. It's academic, it's intellectual, it's, and if we look at kids, we have so much to learn from kids. They're so pure and they learn through play. So it's like, let's play and let's learn. We're like, okay, that didn't work. All right, well, let's try something else. In fact, Raj wanted to give me some criticism recently, feedback maybe, about something that he didn't like I was doing in the bathroom. I have long hair and my hair gets stuck in my rubber band. So I go to take a shower, I take it out and I put the rubber band on the counter. And
there's looks like some scary monsters.
There's scary spiders on the counter or something. And so he wanted to tell me this without complaining too much. And so he said, how can I give you some feedback about something, but in a really positive way? And I said, treat it like a game. Like a little kid would say to another kid, I know, let's play a game. So he actually looked at me and said, I know, let's play a game. When you take your hair things off, put them in a drawer so I don't have to see them on the counter. Won't that be fun?
It's so different how you approach, one way of terming these are behavior change requests. And
that's from Harville Hendricks and Helen Hunt, just to give them credit, because they're two of our favorite relationship researchers.
And it's just one element of relationships that are challenging to navigate, because we're not taught how to have a great relationship. We're taught a lot of things in life, but that's not one of them. And somehow we're expected to have the capacity to deal with all the challenging things in relationship. And they're more challenging than most things in life.
I mean, look at just handling your own emotions, whether it's, our two biggest triggers are usually if we're hangry, we work or something and you get hungry and angry, right? And our second one, and the entrepreneurs out there can probably relate to this, is technology glitches. We just built this whole sales funnel and it took us 3 weeks, and half of that time was technology glitches. And so those are usually some of the things that will kind of up the tension, between us. We know, okay, we got to be doing something a little bit different with this tension building. But because it does happen. And so if you can actually take those experiences of tension and bring them together, have that tension bring you together. We like to say upset can create intimacy. Nice. But I actually want to go back just for a moment, because I said playful is one, but the other is proactive. And that's what we were really talking about, with these vows and the structures, is that we don't want to wait. Most couples do this. Oh, things are great, things are great, things are great. And things aren't so great. And they might like, well, it's not that big of a deal. They might have a few fights. And then, but they're not looking for where do we want to be. Very few people, even people who set goals, rarely set goals for their relationship. And we want people to be more proactive. So our vows is a way of being proactive, that every morning when we say that vow, we can say, okay, what's the gap between that vow and where we're actually at? Mm-hmm. I'll grab this, you saw our vows, but we've upgraded, and we have this exercise called the shared relationship vision, and I'll send you a link to it. So if you want to send it out to your audience, you can. It cost thousands of dollars to get this exercise because it was only in our coaching program. And then one day I just was like, this is too good not to share. I need to get it out there. And then if people want my help to walk them through it. But what it does in the shared relationship vision is it has you declare, this is who we are in relationship. And so then what I did for Raj for Christmas is I had it engraved on Etsy in one of these little cards here. It's like a brass kind of credit card. So he can either carry it in his wallet. In this case, he has it on the windowsill.
In brass, because it was a brass
anniversary.
Yeah.
So he was looking right at it. And it's just a few sentences, but we say it every morning. In fact, I can say it without even looking at this. So you want to get to do the shared relationship vision?
Sure.
Yeah. I love my marriage and my husband.
My wife.
We are playful, peaceful, and passionate. We are hot for each other and express it daily. We generate with intention. We communicate with care. We contribute to the world.
We're on.
We nurture. We get added in our bodies. We realize we forgot our bodies. So we added in, we nurture our bodies. And we're abundant. We're on top of what is to be done.
And we're abundant
with our finances, time, energy, and love. So when we say that over breakfast, we can go, we're hot for each other, express it daily. And be
When's the last time we had sex?
When did we have sex last? Yeah. Or, so you're looking at what's the gap of where you want to be rather than waiting for the problems to surface and to deal with those.
That is so awesome. I can totally relate to that, by the way. And I just have to say already, like these few concepts that you've put out there already, I'm like, oh, these are takeaways for me. These are really great. Playful, proactive. Yeah. Like these are good. I'm going to take them into my relationship here and test them out. And in some ways I'm playing with it, but I think the key thing is, related to that proactiveness and just doing it consciously. It's like relationship by default or relationship by creative act. And I get that about you too, that is what you're all about, is having it be a conscious creative act, because it's everything, right? Your relationship, your businesses are part of it. You're spending so much time together and you're creating your lives together. So
we run two companies together.
What's that?
We run two businesses together. And, even for those who aren't running businesses together, as you mentioned, Devin, the quality of your relationship trumps everything else in your life. Everything else in your life could be going great. And if your relationship isn't working, nothing really seems that great.
Usually only health trumps it. If you get knocked out with the flu or something, but otherwise it's for not everyone, but for most people, it's your relationship. When things are south there, it doesn't matter if everything else is going great. It can consume you. And the reverse is true. If everything's fallen apart, but you've got your beloved by your side, then you feel like you can manage anything.
Yeah, and also, like you were saying, you were articulating very well the being proactive and creating a vision for your relationship instead of just settling for the default. And somewhere in our evolution, we've somehow chosen that relationships should just be easy if you're with the right person.
Yeah, we call it the autopilot attitude.
And, nothing else in our lives is easy. We have to work at them, and we have to create goals and set milestones in what we want. And for some reason, we've evolved to not evolve, but we've just, that's how it's been. We never frame our relationships like they should require work. And, when Gaby likes to rephrase that for me all the time, they require play.
Yeah, we don't like to call it work because we often say a little intention, attention, and action spread over time goes a long way. And if you bring that spirit of play to it, you're much more likely to get engaged and be contributing to your relationship and really upgrading it before that slow default creeps in. I say to couples, you want a relationship that's doomed by the default or designed for delight. And you get to choose.
Rad. Yeah. It's like, here's one, here's the other. Which one are you going to choose? It's pretty
Look at business. We set goals, we measure things, we've got tracking. As I said before, we like to take business practices and apply it to our relationship.
And vice versa,
relationship practices. So we recently, in fact, I'm writing this week about the argument EBIs, the even better if. And so we're developing a system after an argument on how do we score the argument and the key areas and see how it went.
Because when you talked about keeping the fights clean and the sex dirty, keeping the fights clean, we like to say become a fabulous fighter, right? Have your fights make a difference in your relationship, and that takes skill. And so even better if after you have an argument, you can learn from the argument and like, what could I do better? What could Gabby do better? What could we do better together? What tools could we apply from our toolbox? And in that, you just keep spiraling up in terms of the quality of your arguments. And it's not that you're not going to have arguments. I mean, that's kind of we're always fascinated with couples that say we don't fight.
We usually ask them a few questions and we find out, they're like, oh, if you call that fighting, yeah, we do that. And there are a few couples that have never fought, but we're going to do an interview series on them at some point. But in fact, just last week, a new study came out by Berkeley, which just reinforces other research that, there's a famous relationship researcher, John Gottman. He's got what he calls the Love Lab with the Gottman Institute. And so there's a lot of research out there that shows that fighting is not bad. The problem is actually, you don't want to avoid conflict. You want to learn how to do it well. Avoiding conflict can be a disaster. And, you want to make sure that you've got the right skills, that you're not thinking, oh, we shouldn't be having this argument at all. But, I like to say the problem isn't the problem. The problem is you think the problem's a problem. The problem is actually the path. So whatever's happening, whatever upset, if you realize that upset or argument is your invitation to solve something that's wanting to be healed, rather than, oh, this is just an annoying argument to get through. Because we don't want people to move through arguments. We want you to move forward after an argument and have it almost be like a trampoline that takes you, to the next level. My girlfriend, Sasha, she summarized it by saying, your mess is your message.
Wait, yeah, what does that mean?
Your mess, well, the whatever's messy, the argument, like there's a message in there. Another way of saying it is there's got to be a pony in this horse poop somewhere. You got all this crap, okay, where's the pony? All right, I'm looking for the lesson so that we don't repeat, that phrase, those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat themselves. So we actually try to, not just our fights either, but we do this with our sex life as well. Every coaching call we finish with someone, we say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was the call? And if it's not a 10, how could it be even better? To make it just really comfortable that we're always upgrading.
Yeah,
and one day, that's really where this formula of all is well, like now, like things are like all is well, plus even better if equals a wildly successful whatever you apply that to in your life.
Sex life, relationship, any of those things. And so in the romp recap, we said, okay, we're going to do this romp recap. So not the first hour after sex, because that's the post-orgasmic chill time. You just want to kind of soak up that energy like a sponge, not go into critique mode. But then within an hour to 24 hours after sex, and Raj and I would often do this when we go for a walk, you have a conversation that makes talking about how was your sexual experience as common as like, what'd you think of that movie? Or what did you think of that restaurant we went to last night?
And so we created 3 areas to score each other. And, you can create whatever areas we want. But
we're not scoring each other. Together we're scoring the experience.
Okay. Yeah.
That's actually a critical point, because you're not like having your partner feel badly about something, but rather how can we have our sex life improve, which requires 2 people, right? So the areas that we look at are intimacy, sexiness, and technique.
So it's really fun. So I'll say to him, I'm like, well, yeah, I give that intimacy an 8. I really like a little bit more eye contact during certain times, but that was really great. And, sexiness, I'm going to give that a 10. I really loved how you opened up your voice and I could really feel your breath on my neck. You just feeling you turned on was great. And technique, I'll give that a 8. I loved how you were kind of switching it up every 30 seconds or so with what you were doing with movement. Maybe we could play around with every 2 to 3 minutes shifting the position, whatever it may be. You're just making it comfortable and normal to be talking about, yeah, what'd you think? Oh, yeah, that was good. And we could try this next time.
And the great thing about that is that next time you're having sex, that you can play with integrating the feedback that you experience, when you do your romp recap. And instead of just being totally lost and doing the same thing, it's kind of fun because you're like, okay, how did that go? Right? So it's nice.
And, in terms of relationships, or with your business, how does having great sex impact your business? Talk about stress release. It's good for your body. It's good for your relationship. It's good for your business.
Yeah, whatever that is, that flow, just like, yeah, there's certain things in life that have me be in my business like this natural flow, and instead of it rather being like a structured, well, structure is good, but just like, I have to do this and I have to do this. It's like, rather than it being a to-do list, it's like a song or a dance where I'm engaging and creating. So
right.
Yeah, that's cool. And I want to back up for a second, because there was something I feel like is so key, and it's something that I totally relate to, and I don't feel like I've articulated. Raj, you said coming from a place where all is well, and then you said, and what was the second piece to that?
Even better if, like, it would be even better if we did X, Y, and Z. And so you want me to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it sounds like a foundation of all is well, and let's look at how this could be even better, knowing that it's good, not that it's necessarily broken, or something's wrong with it. It's like, how can we make this better?
Because we're always doing our best in any moment, and you don't want to criticize yourself for that.
Or your partner.
Yeah. And so, if you approach life like all is well now, and there's always the opportunity to have it be a little bit better. And you can do that in anything in your life. I like to EVI my weekends, even just for myself. If there was something I was unhappy about, instead of suffering and lamenting over that, I'm like, okay, good. Let's learn from that. How could it be better next time? And it's really fun, because then you're like, the ideal weekend.
And that just keeps you on a forward focus. Imagine driving your car looking in the rearview mirror. And right, that's what you're doing in your relationship when you're focusing on your fights and all of that. You're looking at the past. And so if you can create these markers, these declarations, goals, games, for how you want your relationship to be, then both people are inspired. And it's not what one wants or the other wants. In the shared relationship vision exercise I mentioned, you see what are we both on the same page about? We both want this. And how can we be in this game together, really playing a game, not like frivolous, but, there's tricks to use, and there's a start buzzer and an end, and really just bringing a sense of play to our relationship. And it's amazing how much better it keeps getting over and over and over again. In fact, we had 3 fights in 2014. And so we said we were going to have 2 or fewer in 2015. And we were so close. We had a little 20-minute argument on Christmas Day over how some communications went. We pulled out of it. So we're calling it 2.2 for the year. But we're aiming for only 1 in 2016.
Yeah, talking big fights.
Big fights, yeah. We try to fight as tears and yelling. You have to have both of those present.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's measurable.
All right.
Right? I mean,
One other thing, Devin, I'd like to say about that all is well and even better if formula is so much in life, just as human beings, many of us have a tendency to focus on what's not working and what we're unhappy about. And if we just took a little bit of that energy and applied it to how we would like it to be, and then figure out some concrete steps to have it be that way, the changes that you can have in your life are incredible. And instead of having you stuck in the suffering of how you don't want it to be, you can be in forward action or be proactive, like Gaby said, around having it be the way you want it to be, which is way funner because you're getting the reward of having it be the way you want along the ride instead of regularly just suffering and being stuck.
But holding it seems like a paradox, all is well, plus even better if, because some people will say, oh, we're even better ifing, but they're making themselves wrong that it wasn't good enough or any of that. So it's important that you hold those two together simultaneously. And if you can hold that, like, I fully accept Raj and our relationship and myself, it's perfect. Doesn't mean we can't be any better, but it means there's nothing to resist. And if we can then bring in as this game of even better if, then it truly does keep getting better. And we've been together just 10 years now, and we're having the best sex, the least amount of fights, the most intimacy than we ever have before. So this whole cliche of, the hot coal that then turns to ash and then blows away, you didn't even notice. Like, we want to flip that on its head.
Yeah, cool.
Eventually, when we were hitting our 7th year of marriage, and the 7-year itch, we said, we don't want that cliche and inheriting that cliche. What do we want to have an itch for? And we said, this year we want to have an itch to have the best sex we've ever had. And so that's where the recap and this even better ifing our sex life came from, was from declaring that goal, that we're not going to be that cliche that fades out. And often in a relationship, you hear these terms like ball and chain, there's just all this negativity. And, we really want to help couples be wind in each other's sails, that you're proud of each other, supporting each other, and, seeing the greatest in each other, and really having a relationship that absolutely lights you up.
That's awesome. I love that you're just so, I get the sense that you have this awareness of, what's the you use the word inheriting, like I don't want to inherit this, from the default culture or whatever, and that you're choosing it. And so it seems like it requires an awareness. How do you approach that? Like where do you source that, or how do you connect into that awareness? Like, I'm just thinking from your daily life, is it a certain perspective that you have where you're like watching out for sort of the norm or the aspects that you don't want to be or bring into your relationship? How do you work with that?
I would say, for me personally, a lot of it started with doing personal development work and actually getting that, as human beings, one way to look at it, how we are as human beings, is that we live through a story that we make up about life, and that's made up, and you can actually create whatever story you want and then take actions to live into that. Prior to that time, I didn't really have that awareness. It was more like, so it's that level of consciousness of like, you make a lot of things up in your life, and then you believe those things are true, instead of being like, I made that up, I could make something else up.
Right.
That turning point for me then has me look at each moment in my life that isn't working as well as I would like it to be working, and then look at how I would like it to be, because I can impact it now, I know that, and then taking action toward it. Before that point, I was kind of stuck in that mode of, always fighting against how it was, instead of getting that I created it that way and I can change it, I can shift it, I can transform it. Gaby seems to be born with that.
I'm very community focused. I'm very sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions, and so for me, awareness can be a little bit easier because I'm just conditioned that I'm always looking for it. I mean, I can hear a sound in his voice and I know what's going on with him. In fact, both of us can read the muscles on each other's faces.
Oh my gosh.
What is our state? And I'm not like making a frown, just a regular face that you can actually see change based on the level of stress someone's under or how seen they feel. But what I wanted to say about awareness is practices. I call them play practices, peace practices, and passion practices. Life is busy and there's so many demands on our attention. And so if you just wait for these things to happen, you're like, oh, I'm going to be more aware now. For most people, it doesn't happen. It's like a New Year's resolution or something. They're gone by January 2nd. So if you can build these practices, which is why, so after every blog, after every tip on our show, everything we do, it always has what we call an action option. Because we tell people, like it's mission impossible, like this is your mission should you choose to accept it. This is your action option, so that people can start to build these practices. And we have tons of them, but you can pick one on your own. Like for us, we'll practice saying our wedding vow every day, or our shared relationship mission.
Yeah. Expressing something you're grateful for your partner or your life every day, putting reminders in, because we always forget about these practices, whether that's on your phone or in your refrigerator or your mirror.
And like one of our practices we've been working with and talking a lot about lately is called the drama-free diet. And
nice.
it's huge. It's huge.
Okay.
So our webinar we're doing this week is on the #1 reason relationships fail. So I won't tell you that one, although we've hinted a little bit at it today. But the #2 reason relationships fail is negativity. It's not big issues. It's not the big things that happen. It's the little bits of negativity. And we mentioned Harville Hendricks and Helen Hunt before. They're a married couple, been doing this kind of work for 30 years. They even invented a form of therapy, which we highly recommend, called imago therapy. We went for a year before we got married. But they define negativity as blaming, shaming, complaining, and criticizing. And they say there is no place for it in your relationship. Even if you think your partner is your project and you're going to make them into a better person, no. You don't want to do that. But then, when people say don't be negative, we're like, well, you're going to be negative, right? You're going to complain, right? We talked about being hangry before, technology glitches, whatever it may be, financial stresses, who knows what's going on, but we get cranky, we're human, and we lash out and often take it out on the people that are closest to us. So what do we do?
And if you don't allow yourself the space to do that, then you hold it in, and then it comes out anyway at some point in a bigger way.
Bigger, more appropriate way.
I don't know anything about that.
I say everything.
What did you say?
Oh, I just said, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm the kind, I say, my friends joke that I wear my mouth on my heart, not on my sleeve. I'm sorry, I wear it on my mouth, not on my sleeve. And Raj used to hold things in, being like, oh, I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to let it go until it would get really big. So you don't want to do those, but in the drama-free diet, what you do want to do, and this is an example of what we love to do. We love research, but it can be a little dry. So we like to take the good, solid research and then make it into something fun and memorable and easy to apply. So in this case, we took the drama-free diet is taking what's negativity, blaming, shaming, complaining, and criticizing. And then John Gottman, the other researcher I mentioned, he has something called the magic ratio. Have you ever heard of the magic ratio?
No, I haven't.
So, and it can apply to business as well, or all relationships. But it's the idea to have a healthy relationship, you need at least a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative experiences.
Wow.
So we figured, okay, if we say something negative, let's just put that, put that magic ratio right into play. And so if we complain, blame, or shame, or criticize, then we try to catch ourselves. But if your partner has to catch you, they can too. But it's important to distinguish catching you isn't, aha. It's, whoopsie daisy, you're about to fall. Like, we want to keep this relationship. You're not, like, you're being negative. Which used to happen. Raj would be in a bad mood, or I'd be in a bad mood, and we'd kind of be like, what's your problem?
Which doesn't help at all.
Doesn't help at all. So now when that happens, we'll say either, that sounds a little blamey, shamey, complaining about
Which
our
in of
partner.
itself is way better than saying, stop complaining.
Yeah. It's just a little blamey, shamey, complaining, and it's the invitation for your partner to then say 5 positive things about the very thing you just said something negative about.
Wow.
And what's amazing is if you go for the full 5, like the first 2, you're kind of back to normal. The third one, okay, now there's a little intimacy. But if you do the 4th and the 5th, you have more intimacy than before the nastiness.
Yeah, that very same thing that can cause separation and kind of residual residue, like separation between your partner, it now leads to increased intimacy, which is awesome, because now the friction in your relationship doesn't cause separation, it causes intimacy if you use this tool.
Yeah, most people, at best, they're sweeping it under the rug, but you actually can have it be a positive thing. That's what I meant, the mess is your message.
Right. Exactly.
So practices and awareness. That's what I just was answering your question about that. If you want to stay aware, pick a tool that works for you and practice it until it's a new normal.
And be committed. Be committed that you can have life be the way that you want it to be.
Oh, that's so awesome. Gosh, I feel like so far you've just dropped wisdom, gold, everything, at one after another here. So thank you so much for all of that. I'm wondering, I'd love to talk about 2 more things if possible.
Sure.
I know we need to go soon, but if there was, I know it might be impossible. Like, if there was one thing you could recommend that individuals or couples do as, like you said, the action takeaway, and also share with us, what people can do to find out more about what you're doing. I'd love to talk to you about what's going on next and how people can interact with you guys and be in touch. So yeah, which one would you like to go for first?
Well, in terms of one thing that we would recommend people to do is really, like Gaby said earlier, bring an element of proactiveness and playfulness into your relationship, because you really can have your relationship be the way that you want it to be. You just need to get to work on it.
Get to play on it.
Get to play on it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool.
In terms of people learning more about what we're doing, if you want to find out more about some of these tips and tools and techniques that we've talked about today, we have this awesome weekly TV show. We have actually eight episodes per season. We're on episode 6. Awesome episode tonight. And that's on Wednesday nights at 5:30 Pacific time.
On those shows, we switch every week between how to keep the fights clean and how to keep the sex dirty. Nice. And we go through 4 different categories of when to apply the tips. So, because what you do before a fight, or before sex, or as it starts, or during and after, are all very different. And so every season goes through 8 episodes. And so each episode will dive into one of those topics in depth. And we'll always have someone, a couple usually, that we're interviewing. And so we'll share one tip on that topic, and they'll share a few. However, so you can come to the shows, but we'll also give you a link that you can send to your list here. So anyone who's watching, because we have a free gift right now that has some really awesome stuff in it. It's called the Relationship Reset Kit. And it gives you a little mini email course of 4 of our top tips sent to you. I mentioned earlier the hot and bothered backseat driver. It's an awesome one. You will never fight again in the car. It's amazing.
Okay.
It also gives you a copy of our 16-page of our free guide. And so that has about a dozen or so of our top tips in it, and it's laid out in a great way that you can scan and find the ones that are most applicable to you. We don't want you to have to read a whole book on theory and then try to figure out how to apply it. We like to give people really specific tips that they can just pick one and practice that right away.
Nice.
Yeah, so those are 2 key ways. And then, as I mentioned, on Thursday, we're going to have our webinar, the number 1 reason relationships fail and what you can do about it. And that we go through at least 10 of our top tips, including the hot and bothered backseat driver. So you can get that by email or come and hear about it live either way.
Oh, awesome. So all those are available and they're free right now. So
they're all available and free. We'll give you all the info. So,
and we're launching a 6-week program starting on the 25th of February.
Yes.
Called How to Keep the Fights Clean and the Sex Dirty.
And it's the 6 steps for turning complaint. We were talking about complaint and conflict into connection and contentment.
So going from to
yeah, that's what someone said. What do you want to do in relationship work? We're like, we want couples that are thinking about their relationship and going, really shift that sigh, because a sigh is very different, right? It could be,
Nice.
And we'd rather go for that one.
Sweet. And that's 6 consecutive weeks happening. And it's a virtual
online webinar course, and 60 minutes a week plus 30 minutes of Q&A at the end, and people can get one-on-one attention there. And,
our coaching program is, a $6,000 program. So this is a great way for people to get involved. And when we say a half an hour of Q&A, we don't leave until the last person leaves. So we say half an hour, but we just stay as long as there are questions. So it's a great way if people want to have something specific and they want to dive in with us. Not to mention, we're going to have, a good 20 to 30 different tips over those 6 weeks we'll be sharing.
Yeah, and that program is just a couple of $100 instead of the higher priced one-on-one coaching program.
Yeah.
That's great. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll get all those links from you, and we'll send that out. So make sure everyone has access to that. That's great. It sounds like you have a number of different ways people can connect with you and work with you, which I love that. It's incredible. And
and if I could say on that, we just want to meet people where they're at. And so we know some people the concern is time, with some people it's money. And so that's why we've got, 4 or 5 things that we're just putting out there for free in different formats, whether it be the show or the guidebook or the emails or the webinar, so that people have a wide variety to choose what's most applicable to them. And of course, we do have a few programs, for purchase as well, but we really want to just get this out so that people aren't suffering in their relationship.
Yeah, once you get a taste of being able to have your relationship be the way that you'd love it to be, then there's really no turning back. So
it's just too good to give up on.
A taste of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, it's so generous of you to come here onto the Conscious Webpreneur show, and obviously generous of you. I could tell all of the amazing free stuff that you're offering, really cool things. So I just want to thank you guys. I want to say you've contributed to my life and my relationship. I can already tell right now I'm going to take these things away and put them into practice. And I just want to thank you for sharing this with our whole community and the world here today, and taking the time out of your lives to do that. It's really fun. And like I said, I learned a lot. So just thanks so much. It's been awesome.
Oh, thank you, Devin.
Thank you, Devin.
Our delight and honor. Thank you for having us.
Remember to save being nasty.
Save being nasty for your sex life, right? If you look at our logo, it's 2 hearts. And the one for keeping the fights clean, all of our content has this logo on it, so you can find it really easily. But the one for keeping the fights clean is a heart with a halo over it. And the one for keeping the sex dirty is a heart with the devil horns over it. So we like to say, wear your halo when it comes to your fighting, and go ahead and put on the devil horns when it comes to getting it on.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is so great, you guys. I'm going to keep an eye out for what you're up to in the near future, sharing out all these things that you shared with us today on the email list and social media. So it's been awesome to have you here, and just looking forward to keeping in touch. Keep in touch with us. Let me know, what's going on. If there's new things coming on, we want to hear about it. And just, again, my gratitude to you for coming here and sharing all of these good gifts that you have. And
pleasure. Yeah.
Likewise. Thanks, Devin.
Thanks, Devin.
And thanks, everyone, for watching. You deserve a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship, and it is possible. If we can be of any support, reach out to us. And if you've got your own great tips and fun games that you're playing, we love hearing from you as well. So send us your great ideas.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that sounds great. I love your openness here. And great. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and look forward to catching you on the next show, next episode down the road. I know we have some things planned, so we'll stay tuned. And thanks everyone on the Conscious Webpreneur community for joining us. And like you said, same that Gaby just said with me here, if you have anything that you'd like to share or know as a next subject, a next person to interview, send your info towards me and I will be on the lookout for it. So with that, thank you guys, and I'll send you off to do your good work in the world, your good play in the world.
Good catch there, Devin.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.